Hey y'all, Chelsea and Danny here.
Enjoy this episode of Today's Homeowner here on YouTube.
A crack like this can mean big foundation problems. This week, we'll show you what to look for.
Today's Homeowner with Danny Lipford. Real projects for real homeowners with real solutions. Information and inspiration on improving your home from professional remodeler Danny Lipford.
Welcome to the show this week. You know, most home improvement projects are a lot of fun, remodeling your kitchen, your bathroom, or adding a little bit of living area. But other projects are a lot more urgent. Now, the crack that we see down the side of this window on this home indicates quite a foundation problem. Well, we'll show you this week how we're completely repairing this settling problem. Also, we'll show you some telltale signs that you may need to be aware of that you can look around your home to make sure you don't have a foundation problem. Now, the way we're going to repair this is to actually lift this entire end of the house. And we're doing that with a very unique foundation repair system that starts with a lot of digging. Stay with us. Welcome back to the show. Now, we're at the start of a very extensive foundation repair to take care of a settling problem the home behind me has. Now, not all foundation problems are as severe as this one, and many can be handled very, very easily. But they all start out with a very subtle crack, and over the months or the years, they gradually get larger and larger, so it can cause you a problem down the road. Now, other cracks may be simply an expansion and contraction type crack that's pretty harmless as far as the longevity of your home. Now, to tell the difference between a harmless crack and one that can lead to some severe foundation problems, we spoke with a structural engineer to give you an idea of a few of the things to look for.
Yeah, the first indication is the sheetrock. Most every house nowadays in the last probably 25 years has had sheetrock on the walls. If you're starting to see cracks where you didn't see them before, particularly around door openings, around window openings again, particularly if they tie in with brick veneer cracks on the outside or stucco cracks on the outside, that's an area that you may be concerned about. If it grows, yes, you probably do need to pay attention to it. You can monitor it. You can actually take a ruler and scribe a line. Just be discreet if you want to, but just take a little pencil line and bridge the gap so that you can tell if the pencil line is not lined up straight anymore. There's some shifting in other directions. I'd look around windows and doors, particularly if you're in the outside. Cracks are going to occur at the corners, and they're probably going to be diagonal. Most people are going to experience cracks and have a problem when they see cracks in their concrete slab. Whether that's a garage, whether that's remove some carpeting, when they replace the carpeting and see cracks there they didn't remember before. The secret there is, are those horizontal or vertical cracks? Are you actually having a deflection vertically so that one side is lower than the other side, or is it just flat and moving side to side?
Now, inside this house, we're seeing a number of signs that Don mentioned earlier, including this very obvious sign that settlement is taking place here next to this door jamb. To give you an idea of how much of a slope we're dealing with here, it's 4 foot level. You can see by the bubble it's obviously way off level. Bringing this end of the level up approximately an inch levels it out. So that's a 1 inch drop in a 4 foot length. That means on the 20 foot that we're dealing with, we could have as much as a 5 inch drop. Now, that's more than just a cosmetic problem and can cause a lot of problems with pulling away of the structure of the house, and I'm sure it's wreaking havoc with a lot of the plumbing pipes we have over in the bathroom that's in this part of the house. Now, over the years, the settlement has taken place very slowly, so the homeowners have tried to adjust the doors to allow them to continue working. You can see the caulking joint right in here in order to close that up, but even with the adjustment that's been made, it still just doesn't quite work like it should. Now, he's even adjusted the keeper here in order for the door to continue working. You can see again the sign of almost 3/4 of an inch here that he's had to adjust this up in order for it to work. Now, these are very obvious signs settlement is taking place. Some of the other signs are a little more subtle. If you have flooring like carpet, it will generally hide any signs of any settlement, but harder surfaces like hardwood floors or ceramic will start showing a few signs. Now, the homeowner mentioned that he noticed just a small little crack under the shoe molding here, and gradually it got bigger and bigger to where now it's almost 3/4 of an inch in just a 2-foot span. So obviously this is settled in this area. It's also disturbed part of the hardwood here in that this side of the floor is starting to settle down and has really opened up the hardwood floor. Now, once this is raised back up, a lot of this will close back down and will only need minor repairs in order to get it up to the standard of the rest of the house. Now, when we come back after our simple solution, we'll show you how we start raising the foundation.
Get ready to review your fix-it list as Danny and home repair expert Joe Trewini show you this week's simple solution, brought to you by DuPont Tyvek. Build it once, build it right.
Door problems around the house can really be aggravating, but most of the time the solutions are very, very simple.
You're right, Danny. And in this case particularly, where you have a stripped screw hole, this hinge, I just can't tighten this one screw because the hole's too big. So what I'm going to do is repair it by filling up the hole.
Well, now what about using a longer screw?
You could use a longer screw, but in this case I'm trying to match the brass finish on the hinge, so I want to use the same screw. And I'm going to do that by taking a wooden golf tee, just a simple tee, put a little glue on it, and we're going to tap it into the hole. And what that does is it fills up the hole, which is right now too large for the screw.
So you're basically almost like starting over with a smooth surface there.
Yeah, so you just put that in there. You can give it a little tap just to fill up the hole. Don't hit it too hard because you don't want to split that jam. And then scribe it with a utility knife.
Okay, so in order to break it off flush.
Yeah, you should score it because, again, you don't want to take the chance of either splitting that jam or having a tee break off with a ragged edge. Look at that. Perfect. So basic, completely filled the hole.
Oh, that's great. And then you can use the original screws on it.
Yeah,
then.
let's try it. Got it right there. I've seen people who do this with toothpicks, but the problem, toothpicks don't fill the hole entirely.
Well,
This trick, yeah.
This should take care of this.
See how tight that is? It works perfectly, like brand new. Look at that, rock solid.
Welcome back to the show. Now, this foundation repair on this house is well underway, and in fact, yesterday the crew worked over 12 hours to get it to the point they're at now. Now, they started out yesterday morning in removing all of the shrubbery and landscaping that was in the immediate area where they would be digging the series of holes. Now, the series of holes, over 20 of those holes dug around the problem area of the home. Now, these holes are large enough that a workman can actually get down in the hole to take care of setting up the jacking mechanism that's going to solve this problem. You can see just some of the dirt that they pulled out of the holes. They're stockpiling it here, keeping it as dry as they can so that it can be put back in the holes once they complete all of the repairs. Now, they've had a few troubles here in that over the last week and a half, a lot of rain hit this area, so many of the holes they're digging, they encountered a good bit of water, so pumping has been taking place ever since the first shovel hit the ground out here. And that's one of the things that's made it fairly tricky, is all of the dirt that's been displaced has been done so by using a shovel. So quite a bit of work's taking place here, but they've already gotten some of their jacks in place and started raising the foundation back to its original level. And to talk with us about that is Dan Jaggers, who's with the Foundation Repair Company.
So if you take care of that for me, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, Dan, I noticed earlier you had a ruler up there. Do we have any movement yet?
Oh yeah, it's as we're applying the pressure underneath the edge of the foundation, the building seems to be responding. It's coming right on up like we wish it to. Those are the things we watch for when we're driving the pilings.
Great, great. That'll really be interesting to see the rest of it. Come on up. Now, Dan, this house is only about 5 years old. It was built by a reputable quality builder. So what do you think caused the settling problem on this end of the house?
Well, there's a couple of issues it could be. We think it isn't the fill so much near the surface. We believe there's some things going on down in the ground. There may be some organic rotting material like trees or peat or limbs or something fairly deep in the earth that no one knew about. And I think between the pressure of the house and, sitting on this spot and the rainwater and even the droughts during other times are working the soil a little bit more, and so some unexpected things are showing up at the house.
I see. Now, I know you guys do repairs on foundations in a large part of the country. Where do you find most of the problems with rocky soil, wet soil? Is there any kind of pattern like that?
Well, we find it that there's even sandy soils, silty soils, or clayey soils. they react when the water is gone or when it's entering the soil. So it can be all over the United States.
Okay.
So-
Now, I notice a guy's been digging holes all over the place, but I heard a jackhammer earlier.
Yes, we have a patio on the back of the building, and we needed to open up a hole to get into it so that we can work underneath the edge of the foundation back there.
Well, Dan, I definitely see a crack here.
Yes, this is one of the slab fractures that we see in a lot of buildings. There's a smaller one right over here. And interestingly enough, when you think about the cracking that we saw in the front of the home,
Right,
it seems that this crack lines right up with the cracks we saw in the front. We believe that this side of the building is doing all right, and that this is sort of acting like a hinge.
I see.
And that the building is kind of bending and going down in this direction right here.
So it just kind of dropped off in this area, and,
Right.
and that's the point, that it's just the relief of
That's
it.
right,
I see.
exactly.
Okay. All right. Well, as far as this hole that's being jackhammered here, I guess it'll serve the same purpose as the 20 other holes you have.
That's right. We need to make an opening here because we'd like to put a piling so it'll be underneath this brick wall, and then we'll be able to jack as much as we need, just like we're getting ready to do on these holes we've already prepared over here.
And I know a real important part of any jacking process is having a good solid foundation to go with, and they achieve this with the cable lock system that we'll look at next.
Now let's join Danny at the Home Center to check out the best new products. Brought to you by the Home Depot.
Now, if you're about to take on a plumbing project around your home where you'll be using any kind of galvanized piping, or you may be putting together a really nice heavy-duty closet rod, which a lot of people use piping for, then inevitably you're going to need some kind of pipe wrench to put together all of those fittings. Now, this is a traditional pipe wrench, been around for many, many years, but the problem with this is it's kind of tough to work with in tight areas, and also you have to use two hands, one to hold, one to adjust. Now all that's about to change with the rigid, rapid grip adjustable pipe wrench. Now you can see it's similar in looks, and actually cost of this is only just a couple dollars more than the traditional type, but with just one finger you're able to adjust this from 3/8 of an inch out to 2 inches in diameter for the gripping power of this tool. Now let me show you how easy it is. If you have a pipe like this that you're trying to loosen, you just hook that right up and loosen that fitting. Then, just like the other type of pipe wrench, you reverse it around and the grips will allow you to tighten that. So it really works very well, and because of the size of it and the operation of it, you can really get into spaces that you probably can't with the more traditional type. Now, with a little bit of oil and just a little bit of maintenance on it, this will last a long time, and Rigid believes in that because it'll give you a lifetime guarantee on their tools. We're back with Dan Jaggers, who's a foundation repair specialist out on this project. And Dan, you got holes all around the problem area of the house, a little jackhammering work, but they're spending a lot of time down in these holes. Tell us what's happening here.
Well, what we started out with was a cable, and we affixed it into a cup that was full of epoxy. And that we call our starter unit, and it's placed down in the ground first. And we'll set a hydraulic pushing device called a hydraulic ram on top of it, and actually use the weight of the building to push down against that little starter and push it into the ground.
So the ram goes up just a little on the way to the house to allow it to really push the cylinder down.
That's correct.
Okay.
That's correct. And then what will follow then, we will feed a concrete cylinder on the cable and set it down onto that starter unit, set the hydraulic ram back in place, and press the two of them in the ground.
Okay.
And then a third cylinder will be fed into the hole, and they'll continue on until they reach a point where they have enough cylinders that the cylinders stop going into the ground. They refuse to go any deeper.
Okay, and as far as that point of refusal or whatever, you're actually stopping at that point then, but the cable really continues on out of there.
That's correct. We will still have some more things to do with that cable once we're to that point. We will actually eventually put a final cylinder on top of it once the rest of the pilings have refused to go any deeper. Then we will set a piling cap on top of that, which we will operate off of and be our pushing up point.
Okay. Now, as far as how many normal cylinders would you use? I'm sure soil conditions will dictate a lot of different depths, but is there an average?
Yes. We can average about 40 pilings. In this particular hole, we had 32 pilings.
Okay, so approximately 32 feet deep then.
Yes, sir. In
Okay.
another part of the building, we had 79 feet.
Oh, that's amazing. Now, tell us about what's happening now. You were mentioning just a minute ago that you had the last cylinder in a cap block that's going on. So basically, it just sits on top of the other one.
Yes, Kenny and Larry are going to feed that last one in place, and once it's positioned just right on the previously pressed cylinder, Kenny's going to hand him the final piling cap. What he'll do is position that on that last cylinder, and they will take some epoxy and pour it down in the hole. They will also ultimately end up with the grinder, and they will grind off the excess cable and set a jack on top of the piling cap. Now that the jack's in place, we'll put a concrete cylinder next to it and shim it off for safety reasons, and we'll do that with all the holes around the entire building, and then we'll be able to jack the building up first thing in the morning.
We're on the morning of the third day, and the crew has all their jacks in place in all 21 holes and are gradually raising the house back up. Now, they're raising it about a 1/4 inch at a time using the hydraulic jacks in a series of holes, moving to the next series of holes and backwards and forward until they get it up to that level. Now, we realize that this corner is about 4 inches lower than the center of the house. The other corner is around 2.5 inches lower than where it should be. Now, they're monitoring the progress of the lift. The foremen are actually using levels on the window sills and inside to give an idea of where the progress is. After it's up to where they want it to be, they'll take their jacks out and put in 2 cylinders with the metal shims above it. Now, once this is all tightened up well, won't have to worry about the house going anywhere again. After that's in place, they'll put the topsoil back in, the landscaping, and they'll be completely finished. Next, our around the yard.
Now let's go outside for Around the Yard with Danny and lawn and garden expert Tricia Craven-Worley. Brought to you by TimberTech Composite Decking. Less work, more life.
Well, Tricia, it looks like you're about to do some planting, but I don't see any plants anywhere.
Well, Danny, I am going to plant, but first I'm going to put plants on the outside before I put them on the inside of this pot.
Okay, you've got some explaining to do here.
Well, where you live, moss grows very nicely on the outside of beautiful pots such as this beautiful Italian clay pot. And also on concrete pots it grows well. But where I live in Southern California and other warm climates, we have to encourage moss growth on the outside of pots.
I assume this yogurt has something to do with that.
Well, this yogurt does have something to do with it. I'm certainly not going to eat it. What we do is we start by wetting down the pot to give it some moisture. And remember, it has to be a porous pot. Then we take the yogurt, and you need to have plain yogurt, not a sweetened yogurt, and you literally paint the yogurt on the outside of the pot.
So because of it being a clay pot, it'll kind of absorb that a little bit, I guess.
That's correct. You can't use a pot that's glazed because it won't accept it. It's just not porous enough.
So that's all there is to it, just wetting it down and applying the yogurt to it.
That's about it. You do that, but then you need to put it in some place that's humid to encourage the growth of the moss. So maybe a shady area would be a lot better than some place that gets a lot of sun. And make sure also, after you put all of the yogurt on it, that you keep the interior of the pot moist. And you can do that either by wetting it or simply by watering the plants that you plant inside.
Well, I'm anxious to see how this looks in a few weeks. This house is now on a firm foundation, thanks to all the foundation repair work that took place over the last 3.5 days. Now just imagine a round concrete cylinder driven down in the ground as much as 70 feet in some location. That was quite a process. Now the homeowner has a few things to do inside the house with a few minor sheetrock repairs and adjusting a few door units, but he can do that with a good peace of mind, knowing he'll never have to do it again. Now if you suspect that your home may have some foundation problems, consult a foundation specialist. Well, I'm Danny, and we'll see you next week.
Hey, thanks for watching this episode of Today's Homeowner. And don't forget to comment, like, and hit the bell icon so that we can notify you when new videos are posted.
And don't go anywhere, click around and continue the home improving fun.